creatives. And that's touching to what I said before about being in the Caribbean. You always think that foreign is better. I mean, I grew up in the Caribbean. I don't want to be controversial, but I'll even take it a step further. I don't want to say white with an accent is better. And that is the climate I grew up in when I was in the Caribbean. I know there were several hotels that I wanted to work in as a photographer, but it was hard for me to get in. You know, I didn't come from this prestigious family. I didn't have the right skin tone or a funny accent. So I was limited. There were certain places that I could work, and that was just a part of the climate. But we really need to value local and understand the Caribbean is good. You should be proud of it. And also value creatives. One of the big things from moving from Caribbean to the US is that, you know, you do a wedding in the Caribbean, everyone wants to barter. I said, the wedding costs $1,000. Okay, but can you do it for $5? You know, that's a Caribbean thing. But in North America, I would say, I charge $1,000 for a wedding. No problem. People value creatives in North America. But unfortunately, we're not at that level yet in the Caribbean where we value creative industries. Regional accolades. This should be how we have this great little event here. This should be a seminar where we have, you know, give out awards for innovation. Because accolades are a great motivation. And people, not especially those not into entrepreneurship, would see the levels that can be attained for entrepreneurs. So what is the return on investment to the OECS? I saw my little clock there running out of time, so I'm getting there. Of course, economic empowerment. You have small businesses, you have artisans, you have artists, you have creative individuals. Now, you have a sustainable business, making a living, hiring people, supporting government, taxes, infrastructure. Which of course leads to economic growth. And finally, cultural empowerment. Again, back to that reference to Petition Hill. I know, because I was told that the whole art of stone cutting was something that almost lost. But now, these artisans from Nevis got a chance to come over and teach a whole new generation this skill. This is great for the culture. And not just stuff like artisans, but also music, dance, entertainment. These are all things that are constantly changing, and it's so important that we, as a culture, as a Caribbean, promote these as much as possible to the next generation. So in summary, the OECS is set to be a hub in the Caribbean for the creative industries. There's a wealth of talent in the region that needs to be harnessed and cultivated. Through bold initiatives, you can initiate the change to make these industries a greater contributor to the economies of the OECS. My contact information, you can see it there, Caribbean Bride and Digital Coconut. I want to thank you so much for, again, the ECCB for inviting me here. Thank you for your attention. Hopefully something I've said this evening may have sparked some discussion or interest in the creative industries, and we can help move across and help this industry become more sustainable and viable in the region.
At this point now, we're going to open the floor for questions. We'll take questions from here in the room as well as from those overseas. So if you're going to ask a question, just raise your hand, I'll indicate, and then you could just press that little button on your microphone. And yes, go ahead and ask your questions. Remember to keep your questions short, to the point. Avoid making statements if needs be, so that we can have as many people as possible to ask questions. So we could start in the room here before we go overseas. Any questions for Mr. Cox? Okay, we have a question right here. The gentleman right here. Go right ahead. Just a bit closer to the mic.
I wanted to know how you would characterize the creative industry within the OECS. One, do you have an idea of its potential for helping development in balance?
Thank you for the question. I've been here
just for 2 days, but before coming here I did quite a bit of research, just looking at some of the film, craft, artists, and I'm quite impressed with the level of, not just the technical skill, but just how on trend a lot of the creative industries are here in St. Kitts. I've met 2 photographers so far, and one of the things, again, I always like to reference the wedding industry because that's my strong point. One of the big things in destination weddings is people just flying with their own photographers, bringing photographers, not just photographers, but makeup artists, stylists. Brides have no problem, again, this is their big day, in bringing these creatives down, because they're just not aware of the kind of talent that there is in the Caribbean. But that really is our fault. We're not there yet when it comes to promoting ourselves. So the talent is here, but in terms of like having websites, going out to international trade shows, promoting yourselves, that part is what's missing. Because no bride, I'll tell you, is going to, because some guy that they talked on the phone said that he could take pictures, they're going to trust that when they get down here, they're going to have this great photographer. They're not going to do it. Just for peace of mind, this is their one and only big day, usually, I'll say. So brides have very little trust in people that have not seen or have met, have not seen their work. So they prefer to spend the money to bring down their creators with them. And this is a shame, because I said, there's some really talented people here. Some really talented photographers especially. And I know, again, from starting to work at the hotels, a lot of the hotels don't really allow you to bring your own photographer. They want you to use photographer on staff. But some do. And I have friends that are photographers in Toronto that will come down and make like $10,000 in a day. $10,000 Canadian in a day for shooting a destination wedding. Imagine if that was being spent in St. Kitts. 2 weddings a week. That could sustain a photography business easily. So the talent is there, but I think the problem right now is the talent of not really bridge the gap to how to promote themselves to let the world know that they're here. So I think that's what we really need to focus on.
Mr. Cox, did you say $10,000 a day?
I said $10,000, yes.
Okay, could you teach me to take pictures, please? Get me to change my profession. Okay, we'll take another question. We have Mr. Richards. Yes, go right ahead. The floor is yours.
Hi. You identified a lot of problems. Ease of doing business, for one. If you're bringing material into a country, the high duties and so on. If I want to be an entrepreneur, not very young, but if I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I look at those problems and think, what is the solution? So you've identified some problems. Do you have any advice you can give with solutions?
Well, that's why we're here, to start a discussion. I was here to identify things, not to fully solve them all in one evening. But something as simple as what the problem we've had with photography. I think if government institutions like those in the ports are fully aware of the processes involved in stuff like filming and photo shoots, so it's not like education. If they fully understand what we're here to do, I think it'd be a lot easier for them to waive duties or to waive taxes. But they don't, they see a magazine, but they don't fully understand this magazine they see on a shelf here in Southern Caribbean. To create these images, they need to be models, and they need to be dresses, and they need to be staff, and all of them are here for a purpose. And for example, when we do a shoot, we may do 8 to 10 pages, it's all a big advertisement as well for a destination. It's not just the dresses. We're now shooting on some beach, or shooting at a resort. This is all promotion we're doing for the country. But I don't think the government agencies fully understand what we bring to the table. We're not just coming here because we want a place to take pretty pictures. It is give and take. We're here, we also spend money in hotels. We spend money in restaurants, in transportation. And then when we leave here, we then put these beautiful pictures in magazines that go across the world. And this is all advertising for the territories. So I think government institutions, especially those involved in duties and imports, and this is the area that I'm always struggling with, They need to fully appreciate what foreign businesses, especially coming in the film and the arts, are offering, and just be a little more flexible. Okay, that really comes into understanding the process and just be a little more flexible with the whole industry.
Thank you very much. We have a question at the back. We'll take this question and we'll go to our overseas participants to get some questions from them. Just introduce yourself, tell us your name, and go right ahead. Sorry, we'll go here first. Yes, go
My
ahead.
name is Tessa. I have two questions.
We're not able to hear. Could you put your microphone a little closer, please?
In your first answer to your question, you spoke about creative persons in the Caribbean, making themselves known to individuals overseas so that they can get the work. But I want to know what initiatives or avenues have persons like you opened up to creative artists in the Caribbean to be discovered, and are you aware of any initiatives that are out there that you can enlighten us on? And another question that I had is, can you also tell us about, or if you know of any networks that are available for persons to get involved in, and also for persons like you to come to the Caribbean, because you originally are from the Caribbean, to come to the Caribbean to enlighten the governments on these great opportunities for creative artists in the Caribbean?
Thanks for the questions. Well, first on initiatives. One of the things that Caribbean Bride we already focus on is promoting local vendors as much as possible. Because I was explaining how the big trend for most of these destination brides are bringing in their own artisans with them. So one of the things that we've started 3 years ago, we started an event called Bride Villa. And what that is we'll take like a luxury property, usually a villa, and we'll transform it into a trade show. And we have one room associated to makeup artists, one room to photographers, one room to cake makers. But it's a chance for people in the industry, in the destination wedding industry especially, to get together and see what each one is doing. And we always bring in international presenters. We've had 2 in Barbados so far, where we took a couple of designers, we took marketing representatives, people in fashion, hair and makeup, anything to do with destination weddings. We took them to both events in Barbados. Then we did one in Barbados where we took Preston Bailey, renowned designer, does a lot of high-end weddings all over the world. And we took him to Antigua just to meet with local wedding planners and just discuss some of the trends going on in the international industry, some of the problems that he had starting his career. And it was really insightful for them to actually learn from someone at that level. Preston does like Oprah Winfrey's parties, he did Denzel Washington's wedding, he's that level of wedding designer. And it's so important, we believe at Caribbean Bride, that we promote not just the region as a destination for honeymoons and weddings, but also the local artists that are part of this industry, the photographers, the cake makers, the florists. Because he's mentioned to me as well that he's done weddings in the Caribbean that they've hired him for, but then he still had to turn around and hire local florists because they have a better sense of what is in bloom, how flowers work, the temperature, all these things. Local vendors have a more intimate knowledge of. So it's so important that we use local vendors because they always have such a greater insight and a greater way of telling the Caribbean story than these international people that we bring to do these events. In terms of networks, we actually started an event last year called Lucky 13. And what we did, we handpicked 13 high-end wedding professionals across the Caribbean, and we invited them to Barbados for a networking event. And it was hosted by Colin Covey, another wedding designer. He has several books, he does a lot of parties through the Middle East, very high-end designer. And the whole project was just about bringing like-minded people together to share ideas. Because again, we get this idea in the Caribbean that, I don't want to tell, John too much about what I'm doing. I might go away and do a course, but I don't come back and tell everyone in my industry what I learned in that course. We're still a little closed-minded. We're a little very protective of our information because we think, we don't want to have them be competition for us. But we're really not in competition with each other. We're in competition to the Hawaiis, to the Maldives. That's what the Caribbean is in competition to. So it's so important that we recognize that we should share information as much as possible. Only that way we can grow as an industry. The destination wedding industry in the Caribbean has so much potential. And we're still at a good level, but I still think that we're probably 50% of where we could be. And it calls for a lot more networking, a lot more sharing of information, a lot more events like this for people in the industry to come together, share ideas, share common problems, share different solutions you can share together to actually help the industry move forward. So I hope that's answered your questions.
Thank you very much. Before we take any more questions here, we want to turn over to those overseas. Anguilla, is there any questions from Anguilla?
Yes.
A lot of our young people who are entering entrepreneurs of the creative industry, including photography, constantly complain that during the initial stages of their business development, they are either underpaid, not utilized, or in constant competition with seasoned entrepreneurs which they are unable to compete with, especially when it comes to finances or demand of their product. They believe that as an entering entrepreneur, growth is an extremely long process locally and regionally. What advice would you give, noting that you have been in this industry over a period of time and now you are well established?
Interesting question. I mean, starting anything as the new person on the block, as that small company, there'll always be competition. But I find in the creative industry, and especially in photography, photography is an art. It's a way of seeing things. And I think everyone has a unique style. Everyone has their own story, their own path, their own way of showing or explaining an event or a wedding. So I always believe you should never just try to copy who's the person that's popular at that moment. Develop your own craft, find your own style, your own vision. And there'll always be a market for that. There'll always be a way to do it. Even in Toronto, there's so many photographers. There's so many artists. But everyone has their own special touch, their own look. And when it comes to destination weddings especially, it's not just the quality of your work, it's your personality that is the big differentiator when it comes to people choosing a photographer. When they do a destination wedding, some of them might have to travel with a couple for 4 or 5 days. So it's not just how good my work is, but a bride will look at me and say, is this someone I actually want to spend 4 or 5 days of my time with? But it is true, So it's so important to hone your craft, your skill, have your vision, build your business slowly. I've had a lot of people that have gone into photography especially, and they think the first thing is just to buy the latest of everything. The latest camera does not make you a photographer. I've known people that spend $10,000, $20,000 in equipment, but still not good photographers. It can't replace creativity. It can't replace vision. It can't replace, ease the sense that you spend time with a bride. These are all small intangibles that actually help your business. So work on your craft, but also understand the industry you're in. Understand the trends. Constantly keep updating your skills. Photography especially is constantly changing. Every couple of months is a new trend, even in destination weddings. I remember when it first started, weddings were 6, 7 people, and there wasn't really a lot of creativity when it comes to destination weddings. Probably 5 to 7 years ago, trash the dress was this big trend where I would do destination weddings and they would always want me to spend another day where the bride would put the dress back on again, we'd go and get it wet. And that was a really big thing. And then the next trend was brides having 2 or 3 dresses at a wedding. So they'll have a dress for the wedding, then they'll have a cocktail dress. So trends are constantly evolving. So it's so important wherever craft you're in, wherever industry you're in, that you're constantly trying to update your skills, see what is going on in the industry, and update these skills so you're more marketable to the industry.
Thank you very much. All right, Anguilla, we're going to move to another island because we want to get as many questions as possible. Grenada.
Right. So, Mr. Cox, can I ask you, in terms of policy, you made reference to policy dealing with copyright. In the Caribbean, especially here in Grenada, I don't know about the rest of the Caribbean, the stations tend to play almost exclusively foreign music. If the local artist is to benefit, ought there not to be policy? You made reference to Canada, and I believe the Canadians had what is called local content. And the French refused to sign the WTO because they wanted French art to be portrayed in terms of music and films rather than American music. If in countries like Grenada, where the local artists ought to be given a break to promote their art and benefit from copyright, intellectual copyright, ought there not to be policies that encourages these stations to reflect the local artwork?
No, definitely. I strongly believe that. You need to have an even playing field. It's not fair to have foreign music being played on stations where they get different cuts and airtime when local artists are not being compensated for the same content that they're providing. So this is something that governments need to look at. Again, this is something that, when you have a government, you have say a community or a ministry for creative industries, this is something that should be mandated. Because intellectual property and copyright, as I said, is the cornerstone to much creative industries. So it's so important that each government really establish these laws and police them. Because having them, again, I know that happens a lot in Canada. There's some strong copyright laws, but still things slip through. There's so much content being provided, not just on the airwaves, especially online, and it's hard to police it. It's hard to track it. Just a couple of weeks I saw a program for photography where you can actually embed a small code on the image, and now it can actually track the image to see if it's being used anywhere on the World Wide Web. I know it's hard to do that with music. I know YouTube is really good with that. There's a whole algorithm, so if you play a song on YouTube, it can actually tell that is a copyrighted song, and they actually remove it from their platform. So the technology is there, but it still needs the governments in the Caribbean to actually look at the technology involved, provide the mandates, set the policies, and then police them. But it has to be done. Not the creative industries are going to lose out. There's so much revenue and residuals being paid to international artists that Caribbean artists are not being paid. So it's really not fair. And that is a stumbling block and it's a hindrance to development of creative industries. So it's so important that we look at this, and urgently, so we can actually move the creative industries forward and help them to develop and be more sustainable.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cox. Just for the islands overseas, just to let you know that I'm not going in alphabetical order. I'm going at random, so be prepared. You never know when you're going to be called, so we can move a bit quicker. And again, just keep your questions short, to the point, so that we can move along quickly. So having heard from Grenada and Anguilla, Dominica.
Yes, sir. You've been suggesting a number of things, and I'm wondering what you think is the main hindrance to successful entrepreneurship development. I don't know if you identified a particular point, but in my view, one of the things is the level of quality coming out of the products, specifically in the case of music. If somebody in Dominica makes a hit for the local season, at the end of that season, you might never hear the song again. And that's the point. You know, it was a song of quality. It might continue throughout the entire year. And therefore, the royalties will grow and all that type of thing. But even in Trinidad, when you have calypsos coming out for calypso season, at the end of the season, you never hear them again. So one of the interesting points to me is the level of quality in the products that come out from the artists. And if you can get local acceptance because it's of high quality, it's easy to promote it overseas. So I don't know what you think is the main hindrance.
No, I agree fully with that. I mean, no industry could survive or sustainable or grow if the quality is not there. And this is not just music, it's in the arts, but it's in communication, it's in publishing as well. For most of these things, I think the first step is education and business education. You need to fully understand what it is to run a business. Because as I said, most creative people are not good business people. I for sure was not one. I was a great photographer, but I didn't know anything about managing money, you know, setting up bank accounts, how to hire people, how to promote myself. Because I don't find the education is there yet. There's no avenues where people, I mean, it's easier now. I mean, you can go online, you can research things. But when I started, there was no place I could look. There was no YouTube or Google. You know, I know a friend that had a company, and I went and asked him some questions. How do you get started? How do you set up your bank account? How do you do these things? So I think education, and specifically business education, is one of the first things we should really look at when creative industries are looking to grow. And back to what you're saying, business education and understanding your rights, intellectual properties, copyright, all these things have to be instituted early so you fully understand how to grow your industry. Because only then can these industries be viable and be successful, and to hire more people, support the economies, and to grow. So quality of business, along with education, I think there are two things that could come together to really make the creative industries more viable and sustainable in the region.
Thank you very much, Dominica. We now go to Antigua and Barbuda.
There we go. I actually in advertising industry. Something you brought up a little earlier about how work is valued based on where the artisans are from. For example, recently we've had quite a spate of things where you're doing projects, let's say for government, and they, you know, nickel and dime you down to every penny and try to push down your costs. But on the flip side, you would see them bring in an international crew. You know, they're paying for airfare, hotel, the whole works, and you know, and their budget is in pounds sterling. And you go, but wait a minute. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes you look at the results and you go, well, not to brag, but our images actually look better in some cases. How do we shift that mindset? How do we change that?
Well, I wish that was an answer I could give you in 5 minutes or a day. But as I mentioned in my presentation, it really requires a cultural shift, a way of thinking. And that's one caveat to this. I mean, my agency, Digital Coconut, we are hired by regional companies too. So I'm sure we might be looked at as one of these foreign companies coming in. So I hope you're not talking about us. but since I am from the Caribbean, I call myself local, so I still call us a local international company. But you're quite right. I've seen some of the work from regional advertising agencies, and it's on par, not even better, say, than some of the agencies. I recently worked for a large advertising agency based in the Caribbean, and their advertising agency is an insurance company, and their advertising agency is based in Canada. And the work that they were doing is not great, but I know the kind of fees these people are charging, and I promise you it's 10 times more than you are charging. But again, they're a large company. They're in Tokyo, they're in Milan, they're in New Zealand, Australia. So large companies like that will always be hired by these companies. It's almost a prestige because, you know, I have my company and I hire the McCann Erickson of advertising. I look good at hiring that. But there really is a lot of talented people in the Caribbean being overlooked, again, because you're in the region. And I admit that. And I've now seen both sides of the coin, because I was in the Caribbean, being based in Barbados, and overlooked for a lot of jobs. And then, it's funny, I laugh now, I get certain projects in the Caribbean, and I know there are people in the Caribbean that could do the same thing. But they fly me and my assistant and my production artists, and we go to a country for 4 days and waste a lot of money, quite honestly. But to them, it is a big deal that the fluentest photographer from Toronto is a game. I've been on both sides. Now I'm being rewarded for it because I live overseas, still Caribbean, charging more money, doing the same job. But it is what it is. That's just the playing field in the Caribbean. And until we really start to value local, and I really mean that, to really understand that there's a wealth of talent in the Caribbean that should be accepted, should be applauded, and appreciated, and really compensated for the skill that there is. It really is not going to change. It might not happen in my lifetime, maybe my kids, but we really have to look at doing that. Only then can the creative industry, especially the creative industry in the Caribbean, really get the kind of compensation that they deserve for the quality that there is in the Caribbean.
Jose A. Rosa Santori was born in Humacao, Puerto Rico. He graduated from the University of Puerto Rico Mejegue campus, where he obtained a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering and a master's degree in international management from the University of Phoenix. Mr. Rosa has extensive work experience in electronics, textile, and electromechanical manufacturing companies. He has managed manufacturing companies in different world locations, including USA, Canada, Puerto Rico, and St. Kitts and Nevis. He has lived for the last 10 years in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis and worked as the general manager of Cajola Cristada Limited. Cajola Cristada is the #1 provider of cable TV traps to some of the biggest players in the cable communications industry in the USA, Latin America, and Europe. He is the president of the St. Kitts and Nevis Chamber of Industry and Commerce, Honorary Consul of Mexico to St. Kitts and Nevis, and chairman of the Latin Festival Limited Liability Company. He actively worked on the national manufacturing strategy for St. Kitts and Nevis adopted by the government in 2014 and continues to be an active member of the initiative to pursue a partial trade agreement between Brazil and St. Kitts and Nevis. He has been a member of different delegations to the Caribbean and Latin America representing the private sector of the Federation. Since 2010, he has led the organizing committee of the Latin Festival in St. Kitts and Nevis, which has become one of the main cultural festivals in the Federation. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jose Rosa.
Thank you. My introduction, she forgot that English is my second language. It's the only that she forgot. You should mention that. But let's manage today. Really, it's a pleasure for me to be here representing the St. Kitts and Nevis Chamber of Industrial Commerce. I've been here now for 10 years. I came here in 2004. It's about the math, it's about 12 years. I've been a little more than 10, okay? Really, it's a pleasure always to be in St. Kitts and Nevis, the place that I decided to live for my last 12 years. Please let me allow me to adopt the protocol already established, and then I'm going to take the opportunity to say what are we going to talk today. And this is a complex topic. How we're going to improve the OECS business climate, because many things that they said today is that we have to do in the OECS to create a positive business climate to attract this business to the Caribbean. And then I'm going to go to different areas. Important, I understand we need to touch about it. And then in the presentation also I'm going to talk for the private sector point of view, more than probably for the government, okay? It's a lot of regulations, a lot of policies that the government have to do it because they have to provide the positive environment for the positive environment for the growth of the business, but I'm going to go between both. I have the delay here, let me see. Okay, let's do a quick